So the brain grows by input from the environment through 7 receptors. And the input comes into your body through these receptors into the spinal cord, into the brain stem. So my focus is going to be on the importance of subcortical processing. That's the processing of the inputs, information from our environment through the subcortical system, the part that's below the brain. Because what I know now is everything that the brain does and the way it grows and the way it integrates information is from the input through the subcortical system. So let's go back to my point that I made in the beginning about sensory input from our environment is what grows the brain. And you see the common touch, vestibular, proprioceptive, olfactory, visual, auditory, and gustatory. This is the foundation. This is the base of learning, of higher brain function. If those auditory and sensory systems are not functioning appropriately, then you're going to have poor function at the higher level. Most of the time, when you take a child to a therapist and they examine them and start doing their testing, where do they start? Most therapists start up here at the top. And they start looking at how their memory is and how they can sequence. And this is where most testing is done. But you're going to find a lot of problems there. But where the testing needs to be done and the evaluation made is down here. What's happening with their vestibular system, their balance and control, and motor movement? What's going on with the proprioceptive system, which comes from the Greek word meaning self-awareness. They don't have that. So when these systems are dysfunctional, and they go through the subcortical system all the way to the brain, if you have faulty input, you're going to have faulty output. You can see that's a multisensory input to the brain that grows it. A very simple triangle is this. We have a multisensory problem. Then it makes sense to use a multisensory intervention to improve the functions. And so you have this multisensory input from the bottom going back and forth into the brain. The brain sends in, or the spinal cord, the subcortical system, into the body, and the body organization relates to the brain. There's this back and forth, to and fro. This foundation is essential, and body organization feeds into the behavioral emotional regulation that prepares the child for learning, as well as does the brain organization. So what kind of input does the brain need? It needs an input that is of sufficient intensity. It has to happen over a certain duration of time, and it has to happen at a certain frequency. Frequency, intensity, and duration. How intense, how often, and over what period of time. Most of you are familiar with neuroplasticity, and fortunately neuroplasticity allows us to help the brain change, form, and function in response to stimulation. So the more stimulation, the more multisensory, the more it's done simultaneously, the better brain function is going to be.